not in anybody else's budget.
No, it is not in anyone else's budget. We're trying to kind of centralize it.
Okay, so basically, we're heading towards every department head going through you and getting all the equipment, software, and everything else through the IT,
Yes.
not on their own.
That's what I would like the long-term goal to be, yes.
Well, I mean,
It's not official right now. So you do have departments asking for, there's no other department asking for this stuff because I know this is pretty big equipment. But right now, I know there's some other departments asking for some PCs, I think, or some other minor things. And that's just because we don't have an official policy. We thought we'd start with the main huge, pieces of infrastructure like servers.
okay, it would help you though to have a policy.
It would
that
help.
Everybody has to go through you or IT, okay? And instead of just getting, I mean, John, department head, could order a computer that won't handle what it's supposed to. So
that's
I mean,
what
their
happens.
knowledge is limited compared to yours. I'm not degrading them, but,
Right.
you
And
know,
that happens often. We'll get a call, we just got this new fax machine, can you hook it up to the network?
okay.
Well, it's not compatible.
So my next question
Yep.
is we supply cell phones to all department heads, correct?
I think it's offered.
Correct?
Yeah, well, it's offered through,
All right,
We don't all take advantage of that, but it is offered.
it's offered. So if they did take it, and they do have it, now they have a mobile access to all their information, correct?
Not with the phones they have now. But yes, it is
Would it
possible.
be cheaper, would it be less expensive to get them the proper phone where they could get the emails and everything on that phone, rather than buying them a laptop?
I don't think it's realistic to have someone edit a spreadsheet and send it through their phone. It's possible.
Well, they wouldn't do that anyway.
They might. I know that Paul needed to update certain things.
And tell them to get a iPod, all right?
Well, there are less expensive, we can get tablets, Right now, we're budgeting $1,000 for 10 people. It could be $300 or $400 if we decide to get tablets. That number, can definitely be reduced. That's just, worst case scenario.
Okay.
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 Bill?
Next year. Dan, just a question on the redundant server for the county for backup. Would, like one of these data storage places, a bank, be a possibility?
You can outsource it, yeah. You can outsource to the cloud. Basically, what we're trying to do is create our own cloud here. We're putting more and more stuff available on the web, which is basically the cloud. The short answer is yes, you can do that, but it's not really cost effective
That's my question.
because we would have to do some more upgrades to our network to increase our bandwidth to handle all of your information being basically out of the network. And I don't have numbers, but you'll be paying a pretty hefty annual fee to have all that stuff stored.
You just can't dump it like backup, like you dump it once a week or once a day? or
You can
something?
do that, but it needs to be, you need it, you need to have the ability to grab it
When you want to retrieve it.
when you want to.
That would only be in an emergency.
Yes. Well, not necessarily an emergency. If we did that, you'd want to send all of your backups there. So we get calls all the time for I deleted a file or I deleted an email. Can you restore it for me? So we'd be using that service for that too. So you're upgrading your network equipment and you're just paying quite a bit of money to an outsourced vendor to store your data. So it is possible, but from what I've heard from other counties and what I've seen, it's not really any cheaper than us doing it ourselves. But I haven't really sat down and done, that much research because from what I've heard, it's not worth it. You get a lot more functionality, but you're going to pay for it.
You have something?
So a second server is almost like a second system.
And that's why it's so expensive. So you've got a second system.
It's a twofer.
Yep. And it's very rare to not have a second system. And even if even the people that are outsourcing to cloud still have a second system. So we're really taking a chance.
I know these computers save us a lot of money, but they cost us a lot of money too.
They do. You know, and, you know, I've been here for 3 years and I haven't wanted to ask for anything because I know we have money problems, but we're just getting to the point and you're gonna hear it from probably every department, you know? Things are falling apart and we can't keep up with a lot of the requirements that are coming down, whether it's state or Microsoft or whoever. You know, we've got 5 domain controllers, and you don't need to know what that means, but they're so old, we can't buy new computers until we replace those. You know, so that's an expense, you know, and that's all part of what we're asking for. You can't buy a new computer that isn't, you know, Windows 2008, but that's not compatible with a lot of the things that we have on the network.
Your whole support system has to be.
Right. And this is why a lot of companies refresh everything every 3 years. So everyone's got the same system, everyone's got the same version of everything, and that's wonderful, but that's,
If you can afford it.
that's really expensive.
Thanks, Chair.
Before I get to Tom, let me just say something. I'd had these conversations with Dan, you know, like earlier in the year, and conversations with, in the respect that you need to tell the Board of Supervisors what your issues are. It's up to the Board of Supervisors to determine then what can they financially afford. And the decision shouldn't be made by them necessarily, but should be made by the board. And I've consistently, through the years, even back home, thought that that's what it is required, for them to inform us what they need for us to make the final decision. So that's why, in some respects, Dan is talking about this. And we've also talked prior to this, that, and it will occur with the new charter, when they talk about capital projects. And the thing is, these are the types of issues that will be discussed when we talk about capital projects and how you move forward. So it's too bad that those types of discussions have to wait, or had to wait because of a new charter, but it's required in the new charter. It was never part of the policy in the Board of Supervisors. So, Tom?
If we, I mean, you and I think, had this discussion about the whole printing thing and how aggravated I've been for a while, because I can't believe that we can't put something out in the hallway and people just get out of their desks and go get what they can. And then there was, well, we need to have a security problem, and then I said, well, you know, that's why they have passcodes, so that you can. But in a perfect world, and I know you can't do it tonight, if you were to, what I think really needs to happen is a plan that's created for exactly what she's talking about, Dominic's saying, that in a perfect world, if you had the ability to oversee all of this, what would it look like to you? Because to me, you know, it's all not English. You know what I mean? I don't, it's hard for me to see that, so I need to know, like he just said, from you, what that might look like. You say that you have some departments here that are on board, and maybe some others that aren't. And maybe they're not on board because they either can't be, because I know that jail wants to have everything on their own up there, I think. Maybe there's a good reason why. Or there's some that just haven't asked. So if we can identify who those are and aren't. Second part, that was just a comment. The second part was laptops. How come we aren't going to laptops for every employee rather than desktops? Whether it's an emergency or, forget about the emergency for a minute. Or is it because of the, and again, I'm dumb to this, is it because of the ability for them to hold X amount of, why aren't we like doing it, why aren't we doing that so that?
It's, the main reason why we're not using laptops for everyone is for security reasons, not because of data, but because of viruses. Because if you give someone a laptop, they're going to bring it home, they can bring it anywhere they want, plug it into anybody's network, and then bring it back here, plug it into our network, and you could have
Stop just a minute. But going along with the policies created, along with not only going to you to, you have the policy that says that the laptop doesn't leave the county, so that, unless in case of emergency.
Right. You could do that. I mean,
You know, I mean, to me, that makes,
well, that's just one issue. The other issue is they're definitely more expensive than desktops. And for the type of work that's done in the county, 90% of it is not mobile. And you just don't need to spend that money on a laptop and risk that someone's going to do something with it. But it's definitely possible. I think starting with department heads is a good way to, see if we can make it work. But I wouldn't want to buy them for everyone right now. They don't last as long. The life, cycle is 3 years. And
Oh, really?
there's just more.
Well, that'd be, yeah, I didn't know that. That'd be a good reason
It's
why.
hard for me to
Yeah.
text
But again, if we,
when I'm sitting
But in a
there
perfect
running
world, getting back to your
Someone-
first point, I mean, I
listen
wouldn't,
to her.
we wouldn't be in a floodplain.
He's
And
here.
that would resolve a lot of
I don't know.
Well-
the disaster recovery
Person
issue.
was telling me they
but as
couldn't
far as getting it all under one, it's one thing to say, have it all go through Dan so it can be purchased. It's another thing to
be-
say,
They need both for
um,
financial thing.
not only, but also organized, not
Right.
just,
Right.
because that still doesn't mean we wouldn't have two people asking for two plotters.
Right, you would, centralized printing would save us tens of thousands of dollars. No, but it's not as easy
It's
as
an initial
saying,
investment.
we're gonna do this. There's an initial, not even so much that, it's telling, I did this at previous jobs. Nobody wants to give up their printer. So you need someone with authority that's gonna say,
Well, that's the
you're
whole- that's-
giving up that printer, and you're gonna walk 10 feet down the hall because it's gonna save the county $30,000. And until we have, hopefully an executive type position, we'll be able to have that kind of authority.
We have that authority with the board now, we just need to know what, I'm sure that even a executive is gonna say, Dan, put the plan together for me.
And it's a big project. I
But,
mean,
you know.
it's a huge project. We've worked with some vendors, we've done some research on it, but it just, we didn't think it would work.
I think I got Butch and then Brian. Or John, I got John.
Dan, if you had a look at the $76,000 and you took the $18,000 item, is there any, any benefit to leasing it on a 3-year, not a 5, because it'll become obsolete? Is there any, I mean, there's gotta be some benefit. Okay, that'll chop a lot of it down if if there's one vendor, he may be able to supply $30,000, $40,000 of this. And it
Yeah.
might go out into 1, 2, and 3 years,
Right.
rather than us getting hit with, $70,000. We can, do a lease factor, and it doesn't cost any more. Because in 3 years, you should replace it anyway,
Right.
or 5 years.
That's a really good point, and we are in such the habit of just, it's cheaper to use it till it dies, that we haven't really looked into leasing, but that is,
There's
that's
no
a good
such
point.
thing as keeping it until it dies, because the technology
Right.
changes every 3 years, like you said.
Right.
And at least this will keep us ahead of the game, and instead of behind the 8 ball all the time, trying to replace all this stuff.
I can look into that. I
I mean,
know,
that's just a comment, it's up to you.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but it's definitely a valid point.
Even if we had to put this plan on a 3-year plan.
Well, I think, and that goes back
At
to the
least you've got a
capital.
plan
Right.
where you're gonna use this stuff and you're gonna get it.
And stuff like this really should be a capital project. I mean, we're slipping in a little bit of a fiber upgrade that you guys approved over the summer. We're slipping in the disaster recovery. We're trying to slip in all these things. It really should be a $100,000 capital project that's over 3 to 5 years, but.
And one other question. Why is the main, like you keep talking, we talk about the flood, and we talk about the flooded area and all this. Why isn't the server, why can't the server be put someplace else? Why does it have to be on site for us?
It could be moved to a different building, but,
No, the server could be moved.
well, you've got more than just a server. You've got
I
a lot.
know that, I'm making it easy for everybody. What I'm saying is get it off site and take it away from this problem.
But the way
Something to
that,
look at.
the way the network was created, it's built around that annex.
Okay.
So it would take a lot of planning to move it.
Okay, Butch?
Okay,
Okay, if I got John or if I got Brian? John?
You're talking about the server. The issue with the server is that when you lose power to the annex, correct?
Lose power, or fire, or flood, yes.
Right. Well, then obviously a fire would be a different situation, but with the generator going in, that obviously is going to help alleviate some of the issue. It's not going to give you redundancy, we know that.
With the generator, we should be safe from any disaster we've had to this point. We'd be okay.
All we gotta do is get them to pick those fuel tanks up so they don't float away during the flood.
They're anchored down.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
No, and that's a good point, really, any disaster we've had up until this point, you know, that generator would have solved it. But fire, whatever else, you know, and that's, you know, I don't think that's gonna happen, but it could happen any day.
Okay.
Did you have anything,
Thank you,
Brian?
Chair.
Brian, then let's move on after that.
Under the central printing, that there's $14,000 technical equipment, what was that?
That's the next piece of it, and basically what that is, where we talked to a local company that makes like car lifts, and they have lifts that are smaller scale, that I think we're looking at 2 lifts to put under the printing press and the cutter, the 2 biggest, most expensive pieces of equipment. That would basically raise them up to the ceiling, turn everything off, and walk out of the building if you know a flood's coming. And I've been sitting on this idea for 2 years because, you know, I don't want to spend that much money on a place where we shouldn't even have a print shop. It should be in a different building or a different room. But I've, you know, tried that, and you know that doesn't seem to be happening. So when you add up what we paid over the last 2 floods, it's, you know, $50,000 each time. A lot of that is FEMA money, but you know, someday FEMA's going to say no. For $14,000, it's actually a little less than $14,000. You can have these guys come in and put everything on a lift. And I did talk to Paul about it, and you know, if we ever did move, or if we lost the print shop or whatever, we think we can use those lifts in other places.
And just one other thing, and we talked about the generator. Is that clean enough so that it's for, is it inverter technology?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more than enough than we, for what we.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to staff changes then.
All right. Yeah, so, you know, so that was the print shop, also related to disaster recovery. The other piece is, on the back of the piece of paper I gave you, is staff changes. So I've got 3 upgrades here and 1 new person. Now the 3 upgrades, I'll try to go through them kind of quickly. The first one is programmer. Over the summer, you approved a new position for me, the database administrator. That used to be the senior programmer. Now she's in a new position. That's great, I'm happy. There's another programmer that's a lower level that is now doing that person's work. So basically, I just want to move her up into the senior title and remove the lower level programmer. I don't see a need to fill that. So that's just, you know, taking on someone else's work. I just want to move her up. You can see the amount of increases here. They're pretty minor for most of them. That one's about $1,700. The next one is the micro technician. We have 1 micro tech. Something to just remember, you know, everyone says our department is so big, but we really only have like 3 technical support people. All the rest are programmers, payroll, blah, blah, blah. We've got 1 micro tech. This guy runs around, he's the one running around at the flood, during the flood, setting up all the machines. He's the one setting up all of Ken's machines right now, all the new PCs that we've got. He's basically first level support, but he's been doing it for quite a long time, and he's picked up a lot of extra work that is way out of his title. He's been doing networking work just to help out because, you know, the need is there. He's been helping with the network, he helps with a little bit of programming, he does just about everything. So I think this is a promotion that's way overdue, and it's a huge benefit to the county. He's a great resource. I think we owe it to him to say thank you to him and give him what he deserves. The last one here is our computer services coordinator. You remember the year that I started, our senior computer services coordinator retired. She got into a motorcycle accident. When she retired, I chose not to fill the position. I wanted to analyze it and see if we could distribute the work somewhere else. We did, and most of the work we distributed to the current computer services coordinator, who is basically a lower level. So this person has been doing that person's work for the past 3 years, along with all the other stuff that she does. So we're really just looking for a promotion because kind of she filled that vacuum and took on a lot of extra responsibility. And I think this is another one that's long overdue. So those are the three increases. The last item is a new microtech. You probably think I'm crazy asking for a new person, but we also, number one, the need is there. Everyone's, asking for more and more technology. We're doing more and more work. We can't keep up with the work that we have. People are getting frustrated. But the other piece of this person is we are in negotiations with the city of Amsterdam. We usually are in contract with them to take care of their network and whatever, their IT support. Right now, we're just charging them by the hour and pulling in, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000, well, actually not even, $15,000, $20,000. I'm negotiating with them, and they want to increase that level of support. They want somebody there at least a couple days a week, which I think would be a benefit because we don't know their system. We come in when they call us, and we don't really know what's going on. I think it would be a benefit to have somebody there all the time, understanding what they do as an advocate for them, and in return, they'd be paying us a lot more money. We're talking around $40,000, which would cover most of this person's salary, not fringe, of course, but we get them the other 2 or 3 days a week as a microtech. So it's kind of like hiring a part-time person for the city, but we also get a part-time person. I think it's a win-win. It's up for negotiation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but the mayor and the controller there are very into shared services. It makes sense to me. We have the equipment. If we had another person, it would actually make our lives a lot easier because we run back and forth whenever they call now. I'd rather send someone there twice a week and just have them handle everything.
Okay, I got Michael, I got Bill, and I got Brian.
Hypothetically, you don't have to answer. December 1, you're czar of IT. Now, this is important. Could you put in policies effectively to create more efficiency and save money?
You're saying if I have control of everything I
And
take?
it's made to the czar.
Yes.
I think you just solved all the problems. It's up to us.
It won't happen overnight, but
I'd
yes.
say it would, but you could initiate it.
Yes.
If
With
we
no
had the
problem.
authority and we said do it.
Yes.
That's the key. It's up to us. All right, I think you've answered, solved everything.
Can I just jump on that
You wanna
for a minute?
pick that on?
I mean, it's a great idea, but it's not something that happens overnight. I mean, for him to take over all IT and go through all the people, he has to do a plan that's gonna take him a good 6
It's fine, but
months
you should have
to
an
a year.
initiative to start.
Oh,
And you also have to-
Holding it off isn't helping anything.
You also have to keep in mind that you have elected officials, like the sheriff's office, that you can't tell them what to do. You have grants that are given to the youth bureau and public health. I'm never going to be able to tell them what to do. So you can still make the majority of the county much more efficient and hope that these other departments just cooperate. But when it comes to elected officials and grants, there's only so much you can do.
Okay. Who do I have, Bill?
Bill.
Yeah, I'll go. Dan, with the city, do you still have the system down there running?
They don't use our financial system right
Used to be
now.
the floor, the set in the floor there in the back room?
Yep.
That's still operational?
Well, yes and no. Not what used to be there, but now we have the PC side of things is there. But
Are
not,
they still tied to the county? That's what I want to know. Or is there
No.
a way they can get their information through the internet
no.
without,
They're not tied to our network.
so why are we down there at all?
They can go out and find another consultant, and it would cost them a lot more money, and
Is that our problem? No offense, but I mean, it's not county equipment as it was once. Now it's city equipment that you're taking care of.
well, we own our file servers there. We own some of the equipment, but it's not tied to our network. So they're not using our financial system, but we do own, their file server, their email server, which is, fine. We can negotiate that stuff out. I think all of it needs to be, we're actually replacing some of it in this budget. But they can buy their own equipment, they can go with someone else, and that's why we started charging them by the hour this past year, because we said, we kind of wanted to get them into the mentality of possibly going somewhere else. If we lose staff, we can't continue supporting you. So we're charging them by the hour, but, they still want our service because,
I can understand that, because right now you're an on-call service.
Yeah.
They call you and you immediately get down there and take care of the problem. And that's just wrong, because ours goes on the back burner while they go down and take care of the city situation. I got nothing against the city. I just think that they should, if they need somebody down there, they should have somebody down there. And you should keep your people here if it comes to that.
that's
It's really nothing
initially,
about city, county business at all.
and that's initially what I thought, when I first got here, I said, why are we doing anything outside? Why are we doing tax bills? Why are we doing anything? We need to concentrate just here. But what I've learned is that it's hard to find people that really have the skill set for the technology and or the equipment that we have, with the big folder stuffer and we know government, so we can do it. We can do it for cheaper. We can still get something out of it
You're tailor-made for them at a lower cost.
at a lower cost, but we're still getting paid.
As long as you feel you can make ends meet with what you got, and obviously I'm not seeing that.
Well, this, with the deal we have right now, if we don't get this person and we don't sign this type of contract, we definitely will have to reevaluate, what we're charging. Because right now, I don't think we are, getting exactly what we should. But
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I think it is a good idea to share services where we can. If you really need another person and the city can pick up part or, a large chunk of the salary, I'm all for that, because we can't stay inside of our little box. We need to, help each other where we can, whether it be between the county and the city, the county and the towns. We just need to utilize all these resources that we have. So I think it's a great idea. I would really be, I'd like to see what the contract says, because obviously, like Bill was saying, if that person's supposed to be there 2 days a week, and all of a sudden now it's 3 days, and we really need a little bit more, so that would be difficult for you to try to police that, I think. But I'm all for shared services. I think that's a great thing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, before we go to time, are any of those revenues tied to this proposed position? You didn't tie any revenues to it?
No.
All right, so if the decision is not to have it, there's no reduction in it? Okay. Tommy?
Well, you hire a person, and it's great to share the services, but if the service is no longer needed on that end, we have the whole person that we're now paying for that we really only needed 2 days a week. So it really becomes making government bigger on our end, where if they hired the person full-time and they shared that person with us.
Well,
You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not a bad thing, but I don't know that then the same thing would happen. What happens if we no longer needed the person 2 days a week, and now they had a person that they had before? That was that comment. The other comment I wanted to make was, I don't know if I'm disagreeing with you. I think I'm agreeing with you, but I agree with everything that you've said, but the disagreement part, I'm going to pick on Sean because he's sitting here, or even, no, I can't pick on you because you're not elected. Hypothetically, if this county body, I don't care if it's a legislature, a board of supervisors, county executive, whatever, said, look, starting tomorrow, the czar is in charge of coming to us with a plan, and we're going to follow through with that plan. I just respectfully disagree that person can shut you down. That elected person. So for instance, if we decided we're going to go to this certain equipment, the person certainly would want to have input. But if that's the way that the county government's moving, I don't, and I might be wrong, I don't think that the sheriff or the treasurer or anybody could say, well, you're not doing that and spending the money that way because I have control of it. I could be wrong. I believe. Huh?
He can't.
No, and that's why I'm saying I don't.
you might be right, and that's.
And I just heard you, I thought that you were being a little bit reluctant to, because there may be some out there that might fight that concept, and I think that we need to project to the person that's doing it that the legislative body, whatever it is, has the ability to do that.
You're right, I guess I'm
Certainly
just,
doesn't mean we don't want all their input to say,
No.
but you're the IT guy, you're the,
I guess I'm just going based on what's there now, but you're right, if we had a new policy or something that says everyone's using this, I think you will get some kickback and some grunts, but I guess you're right, if this is the policy, that is the policy.
that's the way, right.
I guess I'm looking at it from the point of view of authority
I
to
wasn't picking at you.
tell someone what to do. You know, I don't know, so I would hope you're right.
Okay, Tom?
Oh, and back to your question, what did you say? Oh, being stuck with a person if they leave. I definitely took that into account, and what I've been noticing over the past 3 years, as I was planning to reduce what we're doing, is we're getting more and more requests. We're getting more towns and schools. You know, we just got 2 new schools this past year that were going to leave for school tax processing. We met with them and said, what do you want? They told us, we made it, and they went with us.
You see the curve still going up.
Right.
And it may be a great reason to do it.
And like I said, when I first got here, I said, why are we doing any of this stuff? But we can charge less money for something like school tax processing with minor programming changes, and they win and we win. So we get a customer for very little work. They get, you know, their taxes processed for cheaper. We've got other towns looking into our financial system. It seems like more and more people want to come aboard. So I think if we're stuck with another person, we're going to find work for them, and we could probably go out and find some more work if we really had to, which is not something I ever thought I would say, but I'm seeing the need is out there.
Okay, Tom? Got Butch and then Bill.
My only comment is, these upgrades that you have, you know, they're like 15% increases, 15 or more, unless my calculation is way off.
It's $2,000. You know, it's $2,000 for one person, 46 for another.
Yeah.
I didn't calculate the percentage. It's
Well,
just
no,
one
I'm
level
just
up.
saying, is it up a level? Or
It's one level for each person
a
in
level.
civil service, yeah. It's going from, you know, programmer to senior programmer. The only one that's a different title is a micro tech to a network engineer, because there is no senior micro tech.
So there's no room for advancement in your existing level?
Not the way the positions are now.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Bill?
I'll pass, Chair.
All right. Anyone else have any questions for Dan? Okay, just one final note. Everyone has to remember this. What we're doing here is we're trying to gather information for the Finance Committee so that at the end of that 20-day cycle, we can offer up a suggestion to the full board. We're not making any additions, cuts while anyone is here. We're just trying to get, like last night, we had the presentation by the budget officer on what he did to prepare for the tentative budget. And now we want to hear from those that were affected by it, why they should have changes. So we're not here to make changes. We're just here to hear from the department heads. So having said that, Terrence, you're up. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I object to this, and I object to this because there are 2 department heads, and it has been said way more than once publicly that there are 2 department heads. One's a Republican, one is a Democrat, and unfortunately, this department head has been publicly insulted by way too many people. We need the Democratic commissioner. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here, and to no detriment, and I'm not insulting him, so I would appreciate it if we could reschedule this, Chairman, to when he could be here. And I apologize, Terrence, I know that I did contact you. It has nothing to do with anything, and I'm not insulting Terrence or Jamie. I just think that being the circumstances that they are, and I not saying anything, I would prefer not to, but there are many reasons why I am asking for this.
I'm surrounded, I'm one of the few Democrats that is sitting in the room, I think me and Bob. So it's not as if it's a Democratic conspiracy to
Oh, no.
to haunt anyone.
If you'd like me to elaborate, I could.
Well, it's only to go through the numbers and how the numbers were prepared. It's not.
Okay.
Terrence, if you're not comfortable with it, then we'll try to accommodate you. But I got the bigger parts of the budget coming next week, because we got Monday you're not open, because it's Columbus Day. So then I got social services, public health, personnel, probation. I've got a bunch, and we're trying to make the deadline of the 20th.
So you can't, I'll elaborate if you'd like me to. It has nothing to do, absolutely not, Bob, or you, Dominic. I'm not insulting you. There is definitely an absolute reason why. I would prefer not to spread the ugly, Dominic, and you know that. I'm asking for a reason.
There's not ugly here.
Okay, here's the reason why. I have an email, and I'll be glad to share it with both of the media, from both a charter commission member and a sitting supervisor, why I want this. I want both commissioners here. There's a reason why, Dominic, and I would appreciate that. If you're saying that due to scheduling it cannot be done, you as the chairman have that authority.
No, I don't have that authority as the chairman.
You're the finance chairman.
No, this is the finance committee. It's
What did you
composed of 7 members. It's composed of 7 members.
Wait a minute, there's a lot of comments being made, let's break it, something, now they're gonna wonder what's going on.
So are we.
I'm letting him decide.
You got it on film, it's on film.
Why don't you just decide?
I don't see where this is an adversarial relationship.
I don't either.
It's no different than Dan or Sean last night or the county clerk.
There's not two parts to the county clerk. There's not two parts to
Well,
Dan's
there's only
department.
one budget, and there's
There's two parts, and here's why. Because there has been too many accusations in the Board of Elections. It has been said that Jamie has not been a part. Jamie has not been a part of this. Jamie has not been a part of that. And I, for one, find that to be extremely offensive to the other commissioner. I think that he does an overwhelmingly exemplary job. At the primary, he came up, and not only did he get cussed at and extremely unprofessionally by a sitting supervisor, but a law was broken. So I would prefer for both commissioners to be here. That's all I'm asking. There's 2 department heads. In other departments, we only have 1. I don't think it's that unreasonable. If public health or data had 2 department heads, I would like to think I would be just as ferocious for any other department head to have equal representation.
Okay, I got Tom first.
I'm lost for words, kinda. But, I've scheduled my whole week around these committee meetings and the next committee meetings. I don't know, I'm here tonight as a finance committee member, prepared to hear what everyone come tonight to say. And I can't commit that I could make attendance of another meeting at another time unless, I don't know what that date would be. And I would not want to not hear what Terrence or whoever's here for the Board of Elections to say tonight and then miss it at another date that I don't show up. So I guess my suggestion might be, and I'm a little bit lost of what's happened, but if we could hear what Terrence has to say, if you want to schedule something next week that has Terrence and Jamie back, or just Jamie, I don't know where this is going, so I don't know, I guess I don't even know what I'm asking for. But I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I certainly don't want to give up the opportunity to listen to what he has tonight, because I may not be able to be here whenever this next one might occur.
I really wasn't able to be here now, but I rushed because I was told there was no rescheduling. This was, I'm sorry.
No, my only constraint is
20 days.
that what we have is 20 days in order to give our response to the full board on what we're recommend, you know, what we may or may not recommend. I got 4 days next week.
Was he not invited?
In order to, got 4 days next week, in order to do all this,
Was he
plus
not
put up a
invited?
recommendation and get it to the full board by the 20th, which would be the 21st, would be the following Monday.
Was he not invited?
Who?
Jamie, I guess.
Yeah, no, everybody was invited, but Jamie, I evidently had a family emergency. I told you earlier, I had received a text message. I assumed the text message was coming from you at the Board of Elections. I didn't know who the text message was coming from.
Was the backup,
It's sort of,
for the budget created by both? Did you guys both have input on the backup? I mean,
Now, it's been said before that it wasn't, so this is why I only wanted Jamie here.
I have no
Yeah,
problem with letting
as soon
Jamie,
as he gets finished.
I have no problem, again, with having Jamie come in at another time. I don't want to give up the opportunity to hear what we have tonight, that's,
Okay, you know, yeah.
Being the minority of the minorities as a conservative, I should be screaming, but I know what the state law says about who represents you have a Democratic commissioner and a Republican. I don't see it, maybe I see this a little different. I don't see them as department heads. I see them as someone administering the election law. And I think that's the case. And I have no problem if 50 of them were in here giving, but we're talking tonight about getting this done and just going over some numbers. And I don't think you're gonna give us any gobbledygook on it, you're gonna tell us exactly why you put the numbers in there. I think you get into personality issues, that's an entirely different meeting. This is a meeting on the budget. And if you really read the election law, you will know that they are here to have to support the election law. It isn't my, well, they could have your interpretation, whatever. That's why we go to the state, you go to the state. This right now, I don't really know what's behind this. It's gonna look really bad on the camera. I think we should, he's here. I wanna listen to what he has to say. We're having a meeting in a little while. They're gonna make a presentation on power lines or something. We may be here for who knows how long. So he's here, let's ask him a couple questions and see what has to happen. If somebody feels there's a personnel issue, then let's bring it to Bill Strebe and go into executive session or something else that you have to
bring
do.
it to the ethics board.
The what?
Bring it to the ethics board, if it's something ethical, I don't know what the heck it is.
I mean, obviously, the biggest part that has occurred, which affects, which is important because it sort of affects the elections next year, were the temporary employees. So I mean, that's why I was, you know, I wanted to give the Board of Elections the opportunity for us to get the information on, you know, how the difference in the two amounts that are in the budget. I didn't think this was a personal. I have no personal agenda here, other than trying to adopt a budget at some point. Yes, John.
Chair, we do have a majority of the Finance Committee here. I don't entirely disagree with Supervisor Wheeler because...
All right, then, you know what?
No.
Then we'll postpone it,
May I
and
finish,
then we'll try to
Chair,
work it
may I
out.
finish,
I
please?
just disagree with that.
Let him finish, let him finish.
Take a vote.
Chair, and that's exactly what I was going to say. You have a majority of the Finance Committee here. Why don't you poll the committee and see what they want to do? I'm a little disappointed that you cut me off, sir, when I was trying to make a statement.
Well,
but-
because you cut me off last week when I was trying to make a statement during the legal meeting, which was just a point of order on Rule 30 of our rules of procedure.
I was gonna leave, but now I wanna stay. Thank you, John Thayer.
I got caught off on that one.
Duly noted.
So if you want to poll the committee, then I guess that even if we were to vote to stay, that we're all in violation of something. Do you want to, well, first of all,
I'm
we
opposed
should have-
to polling anything because I've been asked to come to a meeting tonight to listen to what the election commissioners have to say. And if I feel that violated by whatever was said a few minutes ago, I ought to get up and walk out like other supervisors have. If they didn't want to stay in a meeting.
yeah, Bill?
Chair, regardless of whether both commissioners are here or not, if you have an issue with something in the budget, any supervisor can put up a motion or an amendment to change it. So what's the point?
That's what I said.
Let's have the conversation.
We're not here to make a decision
You
on,
okay with that?
we're not here to make a decision on on whether Sean is right or Terrence is right. What we're here for is to hear, we know what Sean did because we had that presentation last night.
Right.
We're here to see what is the opposing thought here, so that we as a body can recommend something to the full board. That's all this is.
Right.
That's all this is about.
Take 20 days.
If Jamie doesn't agree with something, I'm sure he's going to notify some supervisors and try to gain support to change it.
And I'll meet.
That's the way it works out here.
Yeah, I would think the only problem would be is if Jamie agreed with the cuts and Terrence disagreed with the cuts. But I'm sure that that's not what the two of you have come to. I think that you're unified in your thought, I would think. Unless I'm wrong, I could be naive. Brian, do you want to continue this?
Yep.
Michael, do you want to continue
Let's
this?
go.
Uh-huh.
Let's go.
Okay. Terrence, I'll explain what I explained to others. This is also a sort of a forum where we can tell the public exactly what our departments do. All right, because in a lot of cases, they often wonder, what do they do in Fonda that we tax people? So this is the opportunity for the different department heads to get up and say, this is our responsibility, and this is why we have these certain costs. And so I think elections are important. So I think if you would like to speak to your budget, please do.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
If you haven't found it, we're on page 17 of the book. And to address your comments there, the Board of Elections' main responsibility is the registration of the voters and to maintain that database. And in doing so, one of the line items here is just simply for that, it's 4425. It's for the maintenance of that database that we have with that registration of the voters and the communication that we have to have with the state's centralized database as well. And a couple of years ago, it was brought up that we were re-signing that contract, and I believe you were the one that really questioned it. And talking with Dan, it's something that if we were going to get rid of that, would take several years probably to develop and to go about, and the cost we don't know. But we're within this agreement right now until for another 3 years. So that item is untouched, and that's what it's there for. The items in particular that, our second objective is running elections. And doing that, we require election inspectors, we require the paper to run the ballots and to program the voting machines. So if you were to look at line item 1130, that's the temporary employees one, and then 4421 and 4438. Those are 3 line items that are primarily set for just running elections. And all 3 of those line items were cut. And the reason that there's an increase in them from the previous years is because, again, we have to deal with the number of elections that are coming forward in that year. And until the state Senate or the state legislators move the state primary, every federal year we're going to probably have an extra primary election, or the possibility of one. And again, that's something that we have to budget for in the event that there is a primary. It's not something we can say, well, let's not budget for it and hope it doesn't happen. We need to put it in there to make sure that we at least have that budgeted if it does take place. So those items were budgeted for 3 elections. So now we have them cut to, in some cases, below what it would cost us to run 1 election. So those are the 3 items there in particular that I would want to see that the committee address and the board to address.
Terry, can I have the other 2 codes?
The one was the temporary employees, and 4421, property and rental, that's the poll sites. That's the cost for these poll sites that we end up paying. 4438, that's miscellaneous support services. That's where the courier and the mover's money comes out of. The mover that we pay to move the machines to the poll sites and then return them back to us. That was something that we didn't have with the lever machines because they sat at the poll sites. So because the state required that they be centrally located, now we have to do that.
Okay,
Can you increase your charges to the municipalities? Like, I know you charge the city X number of dollars, it's broken down. Can you do that in anticipation, or you say the third election?
Well, what we do is
So
we,
you would have the extra revenue to offset some of your costs?
that is, most of those items are in revenue because they're the chargeback of to each municipality based on all of those things. So it's not.
Is there a formula you use?
Yes, there is.
Okay,
And
so
most
you
of it's
can't-
by resolution too.
So you can't move the formula?
Right, right, because it's based on, it's dividing the cost up either by the number of machines, the number of poll sites, whatever this
All right.
is relevant.
but Terrence, that rate is set by us, right?
Right, that's right.
To Michael's point,
Right.
that rate was, I
The
thought you
poll
just...
sites, we did do that this year, but we have several of the poll sites requesting more than what we've set for all of the poll sites, so.
Okay,
But
all right,
yes,
set, Michael?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Butch?
If that's the case, why did the revenue go down?
go down.
I got revenue
140 to
from
140.
140 to
140 to
110.
105.
Okay.
Oh, I know why.
Sean said it was a grant last night.
Well, there was grant money that was included in last year's and then this year's, or in the year before and then this year's. But one of the things that we've tried to do is the cost of printing the ballots. We have a source where we can print the ballots for a lot less than what we have now. So I think that's why the revenue went down. Actually, you asked a question that I'm unable to answer right now because I may have missed the point.
That doesn't compute. All I'm basically saying is that you had 145,000, 140, 140, and now we dropped down $30,000. And I just, you don't have to answer it now, just if you could find out at least why it went down 30,000, okay? And I'll be done.
Okay. Actually, I think as of the end of September, I think we've only received like $363 of that 130,000 or whatever
You're on the revenue side, right, because we don't.
because of the billing.
Right, we
Yeah.
have to go after the general election, so.
Right. Just let me be, I got Bill next. Let me just go back. So when Sean last night, I think that Sean had mentioned talking about the 3 elections and that's why the cost from the 74 to the 55. All right, that there's the possibility of the 3 elections. All right, and so I think that I think you confirmed that that's what the department had budgeted for was 3 elections. All right, and there may not be 3.
Well, right. There
Correct.
may not, I mean, for our legislators to do something, they need to do it soon so that we can be ready, so that they can move it, because the primary is dependent upon also moving petition time and everything like that. See, so if they move it to June, petition time would be in March, so they can't keep delaying on that. So if they haven't acted now, we don't think that they will.
And the poll sites, those are fixed.
Right now, yes.
So I mean, so the 2,000 and 1,000, the 2,000 is actually a fixed number.
Right.
All right, and I guess the same thing could be said about the carriers and that went from 12,000 to 7,500. That's
not a fixed amount. The movers,
yeah.
he bills us whatever his current rate is.
Okay, so we really don't know if the 12,000 is an accurate number or the 7,500.
Well, I've used the 12,000 as either the movers. I based it on what he's charged us over the, as an average over the last couple of years for each election. So that's why that's figured in there. Plus, we know what it's going to cost us. It's about $650 an election for the courier. So that's kind of a set amount.
Okay.
So that's, like I said, it's a big chunk that he's taken away from us.
Right. Okay, nope.
Thanks, Chair. Terry, just so I understand, if you figure on having 5 elections next year, your revenue shows 5 elections, and your these three lines that we talked about, the 1130 line, the 4421, and the 4438, that's all 5 elections.
Okay, yeah,
Am I right so far?
right.
So if you only have one election, your revenues, of course, aren't realized, and your appropriations are never made for only the one election. So these numbers are really, you're just anticipating the worst-case scenario. It may not ever happen. You're thinking you're going to have 3 elections. You may not. You
That's
may only
correct.
have 2. But if you only have 2, we're not paying for 3 because you're not going to expend that money, and you're not going to realize the offsetting revenue that goes along with it.
Correct.
So what's the argument? And what's the argument on the employees? You can give him what he asked for, and if he needs it, it's there, and if he doesn't need it, it doesn't get spent.
Yeah, but
Still
you put it in the
calculated.
budget.
It's still
And you're charging
calculated.
the taxpayer
It's
for it.
calculated.
He's charging the towns and the city. Am I correct?
Correct.
It's tied to a
Okay,
revenue.
so going back to your point then, so by cutting that number from 74 to 55, should have cut the revenues then, which didn't happen.
Right.
There's a discrepancy there, something.
There's a discrepancy there. Yeah,
That's why I asked about the revenue.
okay, Bill, good point.
Only if it works.
Huh?
Only if it works.
Well, I'm just saying, if he's gonna reduce that from 74 to 55, then obviously then your revenues go down from 105 to whatever that number is.
Right.
Check your numbers.
Yeah, but we don't know why the 105 went down.
From 140.
For 140. I see, I see.
From the 140 which was adopted,
The year before, right.
yeah, like I said, we can go through that as we look at actuals versus at some point in the future. Did you have anything?
No.
Okay, Brian?
Just so I understand, so the state may be moving their primary to a different date than what, like, this year was September or something.
Well, look at last year. We have the presidential primary, we have a presidential primary, which is separate. Then we had a federal primary because the military, the Military and Overseas Voter Empowerment Act requires ballots to go out 45 days ahead of time, which is not enough time for a September primary to get ready for the November, to send the ballots out in November. So a federal judge ordered that the federal primary was in June, and then the state still had their state primary in September.
Okay.
So this is what we're working at. So every federal election would be the requirement that we do follow that MOVE Act, and to do that, the September primary just is not conducive for federal offices. So that's where that falls in.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, in 2012, did we have 3 elections?
Four.
In 4. So the revenues for 2012 would have been up
Right.
because we had 4 elections. Because if you look prior to that, I think, let's say we go back to 2010, the actual revenues were 110,000. In 2011, they were 95,000. So that number of 105 that both you and Sean have agreed to is probably realistic based on 3 elections. Because you got 129 having 4. All right? So that's where the 140 came from. 4 elections.
And the temporary employees never showed up until 13.
Well, I think it was in different
lines.
It was split into 2 different lines.
there were different lines back then.
But everything below that line doesn't jive with 4, so.
Yeah. Okay?
If you do add those 3 lines, Chair, it adds up to 140,000, and there were 105.
Yeah. That's why I think there has to be a realistic, if you're going to do it realistically, there has to be some change in those numbers.
And one other point that I want to bring up, and that is the election inspectors. The pay that they receive is not equal to what other counties pay to their inspectors of roughly the same size. And there's 5 counties that I use as a comparison because they have the same number of roughly the same number of registered voters, the same number of election districts, and the same number of poll sites. So very equal in that regard. And we have differences of, for a general election, they're paying $160 up to $210 for a general election. One county pays by the hour. And so again, what I did incorporate in our, that line item for temporary employees was a increase of about $10,000 to cover an increase in the pay for the inspectors for the elections. So we could get them up to, you know, say $170, or paying them $10 an hour. For working an election. So that's something that would need to be considered in that regard as well.
Anyone else have any questions? Yeah, Tom?
Is there anything in your budget that you can think of that was, anything in your budget you presented to Sean, that you can think of that you and the other election commissioner disagreed on as far as what you would present?
No.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
Motion to adjourn.
Michael?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Terrence.
Thank you, Terrence.
Motion to adjourn, so second? Brian? All in favor?
Thanks,
Aye.
Terry.
Okay. Finance committee is adjourned.
No, or